We're launching a new series on GNAT-TV on old houses and historic sites in the towns of Arlington, Sunderland, and Sandgate. By a bit of fortuitous good timing, this will coincide with the celebrations that will begin next year, in 2025, when for 3 years, from 2025 to 2027, Vermont will be commemorating the 250th anniversary of the start of the Revolutionary War. As many know, the Arlington area was already a flashpoint for loyalists to the British Crown and those who sought a greater degree of independence and separation from the Crown's rule. A march from Bennington to Fort Ticonderoga, retracing the steps of the Green Mountain Boys led by Ethan Allen, will take place the first weekend of May 2025 and travel up the road now known as Route 7A and northwards to Castleton and Fort Ticonderoga. The commemoration will conclude with the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Bennington, which occurred in August 1777. So let's start our deeper dive into some of the older houses and places that some of those patriots and Tories might have known, and that are still standing today. They've seen a lot of history pass by. A short distance westwards along Route 313 out of Arlington, at the corner of Hillside Road and a stone's throw from the Battenkill, stands the Hawley Crofut House. It's the oldest building that's still standing from the Revolutionary era and has an amazing history. For that, we turn to Bill Budd, the curator of the Russell Collection at the Martha Canfield Library in Arlington, to learn more.
Right in front of what's known as the Hawley Crofut House. It is actually one of the most historic buildings in town. It originally was built by Abel Hawley, who moved up here from Connecticut with two of his brothers, Jehail Hawley, who is considered one of the founders of the Episcopal Church in Vermont, or the founder, and also considered one of the founders of Arlington. His other brother, Josiah, moved up here at the same time in 1764, and the second wave of settlers to come and actually settle in the town of Arlington. They came from Connecticut around Newtown and New Milford, and were actually quite a supportive family group when they moved up here. They were also related to Seth Warner by marriage through marriage down in Connecticut. When they moved up here, they were all tight as a family could be. Abel Hawley, when he first moved here, built a cabin, a log cabin, off to behind the house here on the north side of the road. That he lived in until 1773, when he finished the house, which is behind us now. The tavern opened the same year that he moved into the house in 1773, and we have some records and reports of events that happened here. Probably one of the most significant ones that had a lot to do with Vermont and New York and New Hampshire claiming right to this land in Vermont was the appointment of a Justice of the Peace by New York, Jacob Marsh. Marsh was reinforcing the rights of New York to take the land and require the Vermonters to repurchase their land property. Green Mountain Boys didn't like that, and they arrested Jacob Marsh and tried him here at the tavern, November 25th, 1773. Marsh was convicted, needless to say. The jury was kind of stacked against him, but he was put off rather easily by being threatened with his house being burned down if he ever tried to reinforce and enforce the New York encroachment on the Vermonters' rights. From there, the tavern continued to show people meeting until about the Revolutionary War period, when things became a bit more dicey. Prior to that, people were pretty close to each other and pretty friendly and supportive. Come the Revolutionary War and the conflict with Britain, patriots and Tories began to separate into separate groups. For a while, they were able to meet here at the tavern in rather neutral ground at that point. But as things progressed, Arlington had a reputation for being almost entirely, or at least 51% or more, Tory sympathizers. So the Vermont government basically moved here to keep tabs on them. That resulted eventually in a couple of years of confiscation of Tory properties by the Vermont government. Terrible conflict for the Hawleys. Jehail and his brother Jacob were, both supporters of the British, avid supporters of the British. And Jehail eventually ended up going and helping Burgoyne in Saratoga. At the defeat, he started to move up to Canada for safe ground. At that point, Abel Hawley stayed here and was basically accepted as a patriot, or at least a neutral person. And he continued to live here until 1784, when he moved to Fairhaven to be with one of his sons, Augur, and his daughter, Clarinda Safford, where he died several years later at age 77. It's kind of an interesting story from then on, because the house remained in the family for a little bit longer. And then after a number of years, in 1857, I think it was, the Crofut family moved in and purchased the property and the house and the surrounding area. They lived here until the 1927 or 28 period. And basically that's where the name Hawley Crofut House came from. The two longest residing owners, kind of bequeathed the title. But it's been quite an episode here. You have to remember that this is one of the few places still standing in Arlington, in the area that Seth Warner, Remember Baker, Ira and Ethan Allen, Peleg Sunderland, all were here at one time or another and treaded on the boards and the floors.
Going forward, we'll be exploring other historic sites in our corner of Vermont. Maybe if this catches on, we'll be able to expand it further to include other towns. As the famous author William Faulkner once said, "The past is never dead. It isn't even the past." For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.